So today I really want to make a sweet treat that's really good for warm weather. I want to make a fruit and lemon tart, and the fruits I'm going to be using today are strawberries and mandarin oranges, and I'm using those because A, I had mandarin oranges left over from when I bought them last week, and B, Belgian homegrown strawberries are some of the most delicious in the world, and they happened to have them on sale last week when I was doing my grocery run. So I've got all this fresh fruit, and I really want to make it into a delicious pie. I'm going to start by making the custard or the pudding, and because this is all about staying into our houses and not going to the store too often, I already had some packages of what they call vanilla pudding powder. You can obviously find that in American stores and Belgian stores, but I want to make it into lemon pudding instead of plain vanilla. This is going to be a little bit of a science experiment because I'm going to try and do this without looking up hacks or ways to do it online. So I've gathered the ingredients for my pudding powder according to the package, which is 75 grams of sugar, 750 milliliters of, I'm saying liquid. It's supposed to be milk, but that's where the experimentation is, and that's all that we should need. So I've got 500 milliliters of milk, and I've got the other 250 milliliters of liquid is lemon juice, and we're going to kind of play with it and see if I can make pudding with both milk and lemon juice. So we're going to be experimenting. But basically, the steps I have to follow is I put about a quarter of a cup or so of this milk into a bowl with the pudding powder, and I mix it up until it's nice and thick, and then I combine the sugar and the rest of the liquids into a pot, and I heat them all up, and then I combine the pudding goo and the liquid and the sugar here, and then I cook them shortly, and then I refrigerate them, and hopefully it sets up into a pudding. We're going to find out in just a second. To begin, I'm going to start with the first instructions on the packet, which is to take about 10 tablespoons. And then I'm supposed to mix this up until it's nice and smooth. And I'm going to start out slowly with my whisk because pudding powders are going to contain, at least here in Belgium, cornstarch. I can already feel the resistance, so I don't want to splash myself. I just want to gently mix until everything is dissolved. It's very, very simple. Now if we slide on over to our stove, you can see I've already put the lemon juice into my pot, which is just fine. And then I'm going to add my milk, the rest of the milk that I have left over. And I don't even know if this is going to be a strong enough lemon flavor. Like I said, I'm totally experimenting right now. And then I'm going to sprinkle in my sugar. And I can use the same whisk, it's not a big deal. I'm just going to stir this, and I'm going to turn my my burner onto about medium or medium-high heat because I want this to boil. So we're going to watch this like a hawk and let it come to a boil. We don't have to constantly stir it, but milk does burn to the bottom of a pan, so we just have to make sure that we don't burn them. Things are looking really good with our milk, and I'm starting to get a really nice lemony smell in my kitchen, so that's always good news. You can see here that as I've stirred it over the last couple of minutes, things have gotten a little bit frothy. That's perfectly fine. We're just waiting to see a light boil before we add our pudding cream stuff. I can hear in the pan that things are so close to being ready to boil that I'm just giving a couple of final stirs, and we should see bubbles any minute. In the meantime, I have prepared for myself quite a large baking pan. It's hard to see because the camera's so darn close, but I'd say that this big guy is like 13 by 20 some odd, and normally when you're finished with this pudding, you'd put it into small bowls, but in this case, since I'm going to use it in a pie, I just want it to cool quickly, and I want it to be spread out and not in single bowls. Now, look at that. Bubble, bubble, bubble. That means that it's time to add this. Now, when we add, really important that we keep whisking because there's a tendency for cornstarch and things like it to lump up. We don't want that. So stir, 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 stir. I can already feel it getting really nice and thick, and we need to cook it for about 1 minute. So we're not going to take it off the heat, but I did immediately turn my burner down to really low, to like medium low. The other thing we can do with our tasting spoon, now that we've cooked it for its additional minute, we can taste this and see if it's lemony enough, see if my experiment has worked so far. That is actually pretty lemony. I'm liking it. You could probably even stand to add a bit more sugar, but luckily we're going to have sweet fruits on top of it. So, this should be a finished pudding, which means we're going to take it off the heat and pour it into our pan to be cooled in the refrigerator. So we've got our pan ready. Very carefully, with the help of another person usually, you're going to take your hot pudding and with your spatula, you're going to make sure you get all of the hot pudding out of the pan. The thinner the layer of pudding, the faster it's going to cool and get really, really thick for us. So I'm going to let this sit on the counter for probably 10-15 minutes. I don't want all of the steam and the heat in my refrigerator to start warming up my other groceries in there. But then I can put this in the refrigerator probably for at least 3-4 hours. And at that point I'll come back and I'll bake my pie crust and I'll prepare my fruits to put onto my tart.